All right, let's chat a little bit about Houston's preseason roster in a glance. 5 goalkeepers. Wow. To start off preseason, Grace Barber, Jane Campbell, Ella Diedrich, Devin Kerr, and Savannah Madden. Diedrich, season-ending injury, but still listed. We talked a little bit about the departure of Lindsay Harris. Devin Kerr, question mark, possibly going to fulfill that role. They went out and acquired her in the offseason as well, Washington Spirit. Defenders, initially listed with 13. Once upon a time, Julia Ashley was included in that bunch, but Alyssa Chapman, Chai Cortez, Anika Creel, Haley Davidson, Madeline DeSino, Caprice Didasco, Brianna Halverson, Jalissa Harris, Natalie Jacobs, Lindsay Jennings, Katie Lynn, formerly Naughton, and Allie Prysock. Double-digit defenders. We've got double-digit midfielders as well. Hope Breslin, Amy Curran,
It's a lot of players.
yeah, a lot of players. Wasila Dewura Sola, Elizabeth Eddy, Shay Groom, Makame Gomera Stevens, Kelsey Hedge, Sophie Hurst, Libby Moore, Sophie Schmidt, Havana Salon, Mercer Vigiano, and double digit forwards as well. So we've got Michaela Obam, Michelle Aloze, Jolie Anderson, Ryan Garris, Paulina Gramaglia, who's currently on loan. We'll chat a little bit about that. Daniela Murguia, Diana Ordonez, Michelle Prince, Ebony Salmon, Maria Sanchez, and Cameron Tucker as well. So there's some names out here that we hadn't gotten an opportunity to chat about in terms of our offseason overview of this team. And as we're previewing them, I'm wondering where some of these players are going to fit. There's a lot of non-roster invitees on this one. There's your 4 draft picks as well. Some season-ending injuries sprinkled throughout this preseason roster, and double-digit numbers for defenders position, midfielders, forwards. Obviously, this team is going to whittle some things down come
Yeah.
opening day.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say, "Hey, there's some players you didn't get a chance to talk about." Yeah, we're only here for 45 minutes
I
because
know.
there's just a lot on this
Yeah.
roster. I mean, it's hefty. It's a lot of really tough decisions, I'm gonna say, for a coach like Sam Laity to look at this list. But I think defenders is an issue that not an issue, but they've gotta shore up some of that
Yeah.
space in that back line, right? I mean, you've got someone like an Alicia Chapman, Caprice Didasco, Katie Lind, Allie Prysock. Those are your 4 starters at this point. And then you add in a couple different draft picks, right? Madeline, Jalissa Harris. I think that Natalie Jacobs is also one that we could see across that back line. There's a lot of different moving parts that Sam Laity has to deal with in terms of what kind of formation they're going to play and how Houston is going to be able to be consistent enough defensively that they can allow for a little bit of movement with your internationals coming in and out with the injuries that have been faced with this team. I think also the midfield is tight with 12 of them. I mean, it's tight. There's not a lot of wiggle room on this roster. If you
Yeah.
need to make an impact immediately during preseason and solidify your spot in this starting lineup just to kind of see how it goes. Now, we don't know specifically how Sam Laity is going to be as a head coach, right? Because he's been an assistant for so long and he's been an assistant under Alora Harvey. So perhaps we kind of go off of that and say, okay, Sam Laity is going to be a similar coach like Alora Harvey. This is a big roster for a coach like that to not be able to rotate a lot of different players in. Pretty consistent with the starting lineup is someone like Laura Harvey. And if that translates to Sam Laity, this is going to be really difficult, really difficult. I mean, but I'm most excited about this forward group. Michaela Abam, Michelle Alozi, Joelle Anderson. We saw time from this player last year. Ryan Garris also saw time from this player last year. Paulina, the Argentina international, Diana Ordonez, Ebony Salmon, Maria Sanchez. Like, this excites me. This
Yeah.
front line is definitely exciting.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think you make a great point about what we're gonna see when it comes to Sam Lady and how he's gonna sort of nail down an ideal starting 11. I think back to when he had to take over in the very brief interim with Ol Rain as they fired Farid Ben Sidi and had plans to bring back Laura Harvey after her time with the United States Women's National Team in the Tokyo Games. So
Mhm.
there's this window of time that he had to play head coach for this team. And it was a very curious time because this all rain side had a lot of talent on their roster, but weren't exactly putting together or stringing together the results. I think that fans anticipated or even the players that anticipated. And they were really kind of on the outside looking in. And then they really kind of turned things around under Sam Laity, kind of strung together some results. You get Laura Harvey back into the picture. They
Mhm.
get into contention for the Shield at the end of 2021, make the playoffs, right? It's a very lovely story, although they didn't win a Shield or the championship, but good turnaround for them in terms of a tale of two halves of
Right.
a season. So I'm very, very curious. I'm with you in terms of how is Sam Lay going to navigate an entire year with a team, from an off season, preparation to preseason phase to running a table throughout the duration of a regular season. And kind of navigating some challenges early. I mean, we're talking about how there are some pretty significant season ending injuries on this preseason roster. So in a sense, there are just some decisions that have already been made for the coaching staff. They're not going to have, Anika Creel available. They're not
Mhm.
going to have, even in the midfield, they're not going to have Makame Gomera Stevens available.
Yep.
They're not going to have Kelsey Hedge available. They're not going to have, Nichelle Prince available in the forward core that we've chatted a little bit about. So, in a sense, they already know who they are going to be without, so
Right.
maybe they're going to take a look at those areas and how they're going to iron them out.
Which I think helps at this point in the season. It
Yeah, yeah,
does.
sure. I mean, I don't know if we're looking at those draft picks specifically and saying one of these 4 draft picks are going to absolutely be the young prospect to get in there and force the franchise to give them a contract and say, "Hey, I'm going to make the impact for you." I think there's a lot of talent on this roster, even with some of the season-ended injuries that we're talking about. But we're still keeping an eye on Diana Ordonez, I think, in the young prospect category. The young prospect who's going to go in there and make an impact for this team because she's just going to enter the sophomore phase of her career. And this is off of a ridiculous
Yeah.
rookie campaign. So we're talking about setting a bar ridiculously high, a record breaking bar for
Yeah.
Diana Ordonez because she broke the record for goal scoring by a rookie in NWSL last year in 2022.
11 goals. 11 goals from this player in 19 matches.
So what is that going to look like? How is that going to translate into year 2? We hear so often about the sophomore slump jinx and what is that going to look like? Not only did they go out and make a trade and acquire this player, they renegotiated a contract. She will be in Houston for the next few years. They have
Mhm.
plans to grow with and around this player. We want to see her keep up the goal scoring rate.
I do not want the sophomore slump to get her. I
No.
do not. I want so much for Diana Ordonez. I really do. This is also a roster and a team in which, despite all of the internationals they have, Mexico is, sorry, not going to the World Cup. And because of that, it allows for a relationship between someone like a Diana Ordonez and Maria Sanchez to really, really flourish.
Oh yeah.
And I think that that chemistry is going to be so crucial for this Houston side. I mean, Diana Ordonez is such a skilled player in that she can do so much of it herself, right? Getting into the box. But if you can get someone in the wings, in the flanks, sending crosses into the box, we saw Diana Ordonez getting up aerial presence, scoring header after header for North Carolina last year. And you know who crosses the ball? One of the best in the entire league? Maria Sanchez. Hello, I'm so excited about this. And I really just want so much for Diana Ordonez. I think that maybe she won't get that sophomore slump because she's at a new team, a new club. She's home, right? This
Yeah.
is now Diana Ordonez's home. When North Carolina played in Houston last year, there was like a whole section
Oh
for
yeah.
Ordonez. I think being under a Sam Laity is also going to help someone like an Ordonez. I want so much for this player. I really do. I really do. I think that this could be the year of Diana Ordonez if she makes it her year.
Well, I mean, look, the World Cup cycle will definitely provide some opportunities and some different looks for players over the course of the regular season. But that's why we also need to take a look at an experienced veteran that this team might pull from. And Houston Dash is a roster that has a number of
Mhm.
veterans that they could sort of look to and kind of pull as an example, both on and off the pitch. I believe in our previous in last year's preview for Houston Dash, I think we went with Sophie Schmidt, right? This is someone
Yes.
who's been with the team a long time. So we were sort of looking at different areas, and we really think that responsibility is gonna lie on somebody like a Katie Lind, formerly Katie Naughton, got married in the off season. This is someone who has captained the team at times. And was nearly was an Iron Woman for them, playing every single minute. This is a player who is, once they went ahead and acquired her in the trade, has really just sort of elevated her profile in terms of her importance to this team. And I think for a little while there, this club was trying to figure out how they were going to get Katie Lind a stable and consistent center back partner, and they went out and they offered, they re-signed Ali Prysock to an extended contract as well. So there's some things working here in Houston's favor when it comes to this back line, and one of those things I think is absolutely leadership from Katie Lind.
I agree. I think the team's going to have to lean on her also in conjunction with a Jane Campbell in net. But I think it's going to be a great year for Katie Lind. I mean, she's been so consistent over the last couple of years, Lind. She really, really has. And with a lot of different moving parts in front of her coming in and out for the World Cup, which we're going to talk about, I think it's going to be crucial for Lind this year to solidify her spot, right? Even along the back line, if the roster right now has 13 or 12 defenders listed at this point, and if Naughton's the one consistent in the back line, I don't think she will. I think there'll be a few other consistencies. She has to be the one that really holds all the glue together. I'm excited for Lind in this year. I mean, she went on that playoff run with the team last year. There's just like a lot of different pieces that lead Lind to be one of the most experienced veterans on this team that's going to lead them.
Let's take a look at some players who may be absent during the World Cup stretch, which is why they're going to have to rely on somebody like a Caitlin. Houston Dash, no strangers to the World Cup cycle. They are one of 12 teams who will likely miss a number of players. No final rosters out yet for national teams, but there's a possibility that they could, be without their Canadians and Sophie Schmidt and Elisa Chapman. Ebony Salmon has been called into England national team camps, so she's still within the mix of the player bubble for England. Paulina Gramaglia, although someone who's bought out and on loan, likely to be absent with Argentina. Michelle Lozé with Nigeria. Havana Salon could make a return with Jamaica in this World Cup. She was with them during their debut in 2019 and is likely to be absent with Jamaica once more in 2023. So once these final rosters drop, obviously we'll have a better idea or a better picture of who might go missing for Houston. But even just in hypotheticals, this is a lot of players.
This is a lot. This is a lot of players. It really is, right? Like Alozi, Schmidt, Salmon, Chapman. These are all really consistent players for Houston that they've lost, right? Most previously in other international cycles. But I think it's going to be difficult this year because of the lack of experience in the players that will step into those roles. Now, it does provide great opportunity, and we've seen some players come in and grab opportunity, take it, and say that this is mine. It's going to be impossible for others to get this role back. But I think that there could be a bit of a drop-off when we lose some of these internationals for Houston during the World Cup. Now, it's mostly the Challenge Cup that'll be played during this time. Most Challenge Cup games as the World Cup takes place from July 20th to August 20th. And of course, as these teams get knocked out of the World Cup run, they have the option to return to their clubs and continue playing. So it might not be as long as some other internationals that'll be going, but it'll still be pretty big and at an important, crucial part of the season. So Houston needs to rack up points at the start of the year with who they have.
Bless you, bud.
Oh,
Bless you.
Thank you. Excuse
The
me.
take was too much. The take was too much that you had to sneeze. You had to, it happens. It happens sometimes.
Live digital streaming.
I got you back. Don't even worry about it. Listen, I'm with you 100%. I'm looking at things like Challenge Cup.
Yeah.
I'm looking at things through like those stretches of time where maybe we will see some players who are likely to not get time, whether they're those draft picks or even just those depth players, get some time during those Challenge Cup moments. I mean, we're looking at, young player to make an impact or veteran player to draw from in terms of their experience and lean on. But I think number of players will likely fill those type of roles as well. You can look across the roster and see that. I mean,
Mhm.
Marissa Vigiano is a player that we haven't talked about too much on this preview, and she is someone likely to have to step up a little
Right.
bit in this 2023 season, especially in that midfield, that's going to be missing people.
I
Maybe
think Elizabeth Eddy too, you could throw her into that mix. We could
I
see
think you
her
can
get
include her there as well. Yeah, another one of those players who's been around for a long time. Ryan Garrison, someone who might get time during those long stretches in light of some of the rotations that we're going to see. So I'm very curious as to how the coaching staff is going to navigate some of those absences, some of those stretches, whether they're Challenge Cup or regular season. But this roster is mostly intact from their 2022 quarterfinals finish. And we like the moves that they made in the offseason to try and boost their
Mhm.
chances to go a little further. So I think that's the biggest question around this team going into 2023. It's not can they get to the postseason? We know that they can, but can they get there and go on a run? Can they
Mhm.
win a postseason playoff match? And maybe that alludes to our projected finish for them in 2023. And I think it's safe to say we both agree that this is going to be a playoff team in 2023.
Yeah, this is for sure gonna be a playoff team. You don't look at everything they did last year and how little has changed on the roster, how much they've gained, literally in a Diana Ordonez, one player can add so much. It's a winning coach coming into the program in Sam Laity. They will make it back to the playoffs. I'm for sure about that. 4 to 7, right? I'll give them that 7 range, pushing for it at the end. But can they win in the postseason? That's going to be hard to do. I'm not sure they're going to host a game at the end of it all in the postseason, and that's hard to do on the road, despite especially like depending on the competition you're going up against. And this is a Houston side that went into the playoffs last year against a Kansas City, a really tough Kansas City team, and they end up losing 2-1 in that matchup. And Kansas City goes on to the final. So I think that Houston has more going for them this year. They're going to ride the wave of last year. Yes, I see it. Houston going to the postseason. Can they get that win? Can they get that win in the postseason and make it to the quarterfinals or make it to the semis? Just push on.
Getting chills. I'm excited. I'm ready for this regular season to pop off. And I know everybody is waiting for March 25th and opening weekend to come through. But that's all we've got for everyone today in terms of our previews. Thank you all so much for hanging in there and joining us on our team by team previews. But that's it for today's episode.